Hi, everyone. Pastor Butch here, Church of the Mystic. Thank you all for joining me yet again. I did a little something earlier about opinions. Now I'm just going to keep on going through it because you know what? I've been tired. I've been beat down. I've been lacking the inspiration to push forward. And I even talked about that in another sermon, asking whether I should talk to God for inspiration. A muse, if you will. And I did not. Sorry to say, I did not pray. I will at some point, maybe. I just don't think it's time yet. So we're going to talk about something that's really fucking controversial these days. And we're going to tie it in to why we are the way we are. It's kind of like this whole setup thing. It's kind of like where we're going. We have to establish a baseline. We have to establish a core value principle system. And why we say the things we say. And why we're asking you to just take it with a grain of salt. Maybe, just maybe, think about it for more than 5 seconds before you're outraged by it. And see if it brings something different out. Because you can talk about things. We can move past our bitter grievances. We can look outside of ourselves and see things from a different perspective. And even if we disagree, we can agree, that's not for me, but I respect that individual's right to feel that way. Like, I don't understand it, I'll never embrace it, but I'm not that person. I can, I'm adult enough, I'm logical enough to understand that I don't see it the same way. And I'll respect his opinion, but I'm going to keep my own values, I'm going to keep my own virtue solid because, it's just not my thing. So what better to illustrate this than one of the most polarizing things this country has to deal with? Abortion. That's a hot button issue. Half of the country is pro, half of the country is against. And I'm going to point out by talking about this how things change, how people see things differently, how people evolve or devolve, depending upon your perspective. Now, this, of course, is going to require me to express myself openly and freely and tell you something about me, something about how I see things. Now, this goes against everything I believe because I don't like talking to people. I don't like expressing my opinion to people, and I don't like putting myself out there. But this whole thing I'm doing now is contradictory to that. So I'm forcing myself to go down a different path, and it's very uncomfortable for me. But I have made my bed, and I will sleep in it. That's where we're at. So abortion. Now, highly politicized issue. Everyone has an opinion on it. It's a very difficult thing to talk about. And most people will say their piece, and then they'll just move on to something else because they don't actually want to have an open, honest discussion about it. And it's counterproductive because you're not allowing yourself to see it from a different perspective. You're not listening. I mean, you may sit there quietly, but you're not actually acknowledging that the other side, whichever side you fall on, has an opinion on this. and they believe this. It's pretty much if you are pro or one or the other, you fit into a camp, and there's no in between for it, which is, it's sad because there's no way to push past it. There's no way to evolve if you don't actually listen to the other side's opinion. If you don't actually take any fucking time to think about it, you're dug in like a tick. So, considering this word and this procedure has just implanted itself into organized religion, you can't be a fucking Catholic and be pro-choice. You can't be a Christian and be pro-choice. You can't be in a category and follow a different philosophy. Then it doesn't open up the possibility for any actual consideration. You're stuck with what camp you're in. And that is not how we evolve. That is not how we push through things. That is not how we can acknowledge differences between people if we won't even allow the conversation or give it the thought that is required to do it. So, I will tell you my evolution as an individual, as a person. Now, I was pro-abortion for a large portion of my life. Not pro-choice, pro-abortion. 100% behind the idea of it. That's a hard fucking line. But I was young. I was young. I was scared. And stupid. But maybe I was smarter. It doesn't matter. See, that's the whole thing. Like you gotta give a little, take a little. So back then, to tell you honestly, I could write Yelp reviews for abortion clinics in North Jersey. I've been to a handful of them. Now, I was never the man that what's the nicest way of cream pied anyone and would have been forced with this decision. This was always somebody else. This was a friend. This was a female friend, of course, because I'm sorry, you need a labia and fallopian tubes and, a vaginal canal, all that stuff to actually have a baby. Sorry, everybody. 2 + 2 = 4. We have to stop this insanity that we're going down. So these women that I know, I was good friends with, and they were in an unfortunate situation, or fortunate, depending upon how you look at it, and they didn't know what to do. They had no support, no backup, nobody helping them out. Whoever the fuck did it, whoever dropped their gravy where it shouldn't have been dropped, wasn't there to help, to do what the fuck they're supposed to do, because, it's their decision. They have to chime in. They're the ones who created this, but they weren't. Now, in defense of some of those guys, see, this is where you actually have to look at both sides of a situation. You can't just judge without the information. Some of these ladies who got it done couldn't tell you who the fucking father was because there were multiple options. That also says a lot about how society is going these days, where you couldn't pin down who the father was. Doesn't matter. Off topic, get back on track. So considering how emotionally difficult this decision is for those individuals, I offered support. I offered a ride. I offered finances if needed. And I offered a hand to hold, because it is a horrible experience to have to go through. it's disgusting. The whole process alone is ugly. But the places are they're horrible. I mean, really, they're just some of the worst places you'd ever want to go. And it's sad because it's such an intimate thing that someone's going through that you'd figure, like, you know, a little one-on-one, you know, a little consoling, counseling, everything else should follow suit for such a personal procedure. And yet it was treated as though, you know, it was a fucking meat market. That taking in 5 at a time, giving them the speech like, this is what we're gonna do, this is the procedure. Like 5 at a time? Oh God, it's disgusting and disgraceful. But that being said, I was pro taking care of business. Now, I've advanced over the years. I've gotten older. I've had experiences that I didn't have when I was a younger man. I've held newborn babies. I've seen the joy that is childbirth, as, you know, just crazy as that whole procedure is. I've seen it, and I've seen what it's done to people, that emotional connection, that, I mean, quite frankly, they're producing a human being. They're giving birth. This is a fucking miracle. It is a miracle of science, and it requires, you know, a guy and everything else. But it is a miracle, and you can't hold the newborn baby and not, you know, see this abortion procedure as you're killing a baby. It is, you're killing a baby. Now, if you do it in the first 8 months or at 8 weeks or whatever, you take the fucking pills and whatever the fuck else. So it falls under what I would deem it a necessary evil of this world. Because had us not had the ability to do that medically, this world would be grossly overpopulated, because you do not want to know how busy these fucking places are. It is telling. Like, it's rough. And I know this whole point, this sermon, like, how the fuck does some guy say abortion? That's what the sermon's about today, everybody. It's to point out a change. It's to point out, I, as a young man, was in favor of this to happen. And now I, as an older man who has had different experiences over the years, I don't see it the same way. Now, I'm not, 100% against it. I am not, one of those where, the hardcore, religious faithful that, I'm not that, okay? I see it differently, though. That's the point. I see it, I'm like, it is, logically, realistically, if you kind of wait a long time, you're killing a baby. You are. You have to be able to acknowledge that. People who get this procedure done should be able to understand that that's what they're actually doing, and that hopefully would be a deterrent to not get more of them. Be responsible, fucking get a dong bag and fucking wrap that motherfucker up. Stop taking fucking goddamn cream pies all the time. You don't need to go through this. You're killing a baby. So have some responsibility. Understand that this does have, you're doing what you're doing. But this is the point. I see it differently now. I wasn't able to see it any differently when I was younger. I wasn't smart enough or evolved enough or beaten down enough to be able to step outside of myself and see it from a different set of eyes. And now I think I am smarter and a little more evolved in a certain way where I see it a little bit differently. So that's how we change as a people. That's part of why you need to have the ability to step outside of yourself and see things with different eyes. You know, and sometimes you can't. You can't even acknowledge a different opinion on the subject. And that's a lot of what happens here, and I want you to be able to see things a little bit. I want you to try to find the strength to be able to step back and to look at something from a completely different perspective. And it's hard. It's very difficult. And I understand it is, and I know I'm asking a lot of you. But to be truly, evolved, you need to be able to step outside of your head, and you need to be able to see things from a different perspective. Agree or disagree, love it or hate it. Try, and that's just what I ask that everyone does. Just try to take a step back and to see it from a different perspective. Because judging and throwing people into a category and just, that's what they are. You know, you don't give them the time of day because you perceive them to be just wrong in every way possible. It's not helpful to us. We need to see things differently to be better people, in my opinion. So, yeah, just had a sermon that was about abortion, and I tried to tie it into some sort of meaningful message. You will be the decider for that I succeed or fail. Pastor Butch, the Mystic, thank you for joining me.